I was walking past a school the other day, and it was around about recess time for all the children, or it might have been lunchtime, but it was at the end of recess, or it was at the end of lunchtime, because the siren had gone just as I was walking past. Now, the siren didn't go because I was walking past the school. Let's be very clear about this. But as I was walking past, the siren went, and then all the children, all at once, started to stop what they were doing and walk off the oval. The oval, if you're not Australian, it's like the park that's next to the school that the kids play at lunchtime. And they all turned around and just kind of at once just all walked back towards the school, back towards their classes. And that was interesting to see. They were like an organism responding to that siren, all just turning around at the same time, almost immediately. There was a few like boys that were still wrestling with each other, and there was one last kick of the football and that kind of stuff. And the girls would form little micro groups within the girls' groups, and they'd be talking as they walked past. And then I saw this really interesting thing, that there was a teacher, and she was a big lady, very, very big lady. And she was, for want of a better word, she was also a very ugly lady. She wasn't a pretty lady. She wasn't a big, pretty girl. She was a big, ugly girl, or a big, ugly woman. She was kind of big and ugly the way the drawings in the Roald Dahl books, the way they would draw, like the twits. She was kind of like that. She was cartoonishly repulsive. And as these children, young children, they wouldn't have been any older than 10 or 11, as these children were finishing their recess, their playtime, and for the most part, when children play, they are running around, they're tearing around. Even the girls who like to just talk to each other and talk about each other to each other. And they're trying to figure out how the world works, and they're trying to figure out where they fit in that social space. And there's a lot of movement in that social space. Even the girls who like to talk, they usually still walk around like prisoners in a prison yard. They usually just do laps. They do laps of the quadrangle or laps of the oval. And then the boys, of course, are, for the most part, not all the time, but for the most part, the boys are tearing about the place, tearing into each other, enjoying themselves. So as they stopped their playing and they were heading back to class, heading back to the prison, heading back to the factory, which I think is a lot of the sirens, a lot of the bell times are for. There's a bit of movement around the house at the moment. There's some cars. The next door neighbour has built another almost another house next to his house. So there's a few workmen coming in their trucks. But this teacher, anyway, and I don't know who this teacher is, but she was standing there facing the children as they walked back towards her, because she was in front of the school. And as they were walking, and bear in mind, this woman's a large woman, big lady, as all the children who were, sweaty, out of breath because they'd just been running around for half an hour, and they were walking back to what should be the sanctuary of their educational institution. That even sounds like a facility. That sounds like where Sarah Connors was held in Terminator 2. But as they head back and they're tired now, and they're walking. This large, repulsive cartoon of a woman starts yelling at them. She starts yelling at them like a football coach. And she's basically, she was yelling loud enough for me to hear from the road. And she started saying, "Run it in, run it in." And because she knew all the kids by names, because she's, she obviously works there. She wasn't just a random fat woman that walked onto campus. She starts pointing at them, the stragglers, the worst of the stragglers, and she starts calling them out. "Come on, Cameron, run it in. Jessica, pick it up. Let's go. Let's move." And I just looked at this sedentary, is that the right word? Sedentary. That sounds like that might be river mud. If it is river mud, it's exactly the same. It doesn't move very much. I was just looking at this woman, thinking, what on earth is going through her head? That she feels it's the right thing to do. To take her morbidly obese form and yell at young children after the kids are probably flooded with endorphins, dopamine, adrenaline. The kids probably feel fantastic. They've been out in the sun. They're getting their vitamin D. The blood's up. My neighbour is about to start his 4-wheel drive, which he's now attached to is that his third caravan? Anyway, there it is. And then I was thinking, I think everyone wants to feel successful in some ways. Everyone wants to feel powerful in some way. Now, if he's going to park his diesel, this neighbor is he's cool. He's very, very cool. I've been here now 5-6 years, and we live 30-40 meters apart from each other. We've never said a word to each other, but we always wave and nod. And there was one time I was out flying around on the lawnmower, and I saw one of his dogs get out onto the fence and take off, and he was in his garden, or his whatever you want to call it. He's got a little bit of land there as well, but he's covered it in houses, in houses and caravans, and wood sheds and wood piles. And every now and then he gets his circular saw out at 7 a.m. on a Saturday or a Sunday, and starts chopping wood for winter with a circular saw. He's a good man. But I think everyone wants to feel successful or powerful at least once. And I was thinking that's probably what's happening with this woman, this teacher, because she wouldn't be very powerful in many other instances, but when it comes to telling 8-year-olds what to do, she's very powerful. She's almost frightening, and she's frightening not only in the fact of the way of how she looks, but of how comfortable she is with venom, how comfortable she is with being the person that gets to tell other people what to do. Now, we're in a relatively small town here, a relatively small country town. And if you can get, there's Wilco, he's barking at something. We're in a relatively small country town. And being, say, a teacher, what's he barking at? He's barking at nothing. But being a teacher is one of those rare jobs in the country where you can earn $100,000 a year. Or you can earn, if you're there for long enough, you can earn 110 or 120, or if you're a principal or a vice principal, you can earn 140 or $150,000 a year. Very, very rare. There's not many jobs that exist in small country towns where you can earn that kind of money. And I'd imagine for a woman who doesn't attract, say, very much male attention, and maybe she's married, maybe she is happily married, but maybe she fucking isn't. And more than likely, she isn't. And there was, actually, speaking of the twits, I think that was the Roald Dahl book where he was talking about how you think ends up showing on your face. And if you think lots and lots and lots of ugly thoughts, and there's lots of frowning, and there's lots of nose crinkling, after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it shows on your face. Your face sets. Your face sets like a boil and bite mouth guard. But instead of holding it in the boiling water for a minute and then putting it in your mouth and biting down on it for 2 minutes, you've done it over decades, and your face kind of transforms into the face of, say, this teacher the other day that I saw walking past the school. And it's interesting because people will interact with you differently depending on how you look, depending on how you come across, depending on how you carry yourself. And if you have a happy disposition, or if you have is it countenance? If you have a sweet countenance on your face, I'll have to look that one up, I'm not sure. But if you have a face that's, again, as Roger Moore said, even featured, if you have a face that looks harmonious, that looks balanced, and people can see the whites of your eyes, and they can see you smile, and you have a softness or a warmth about you, people will treat you differently. People will treat you as someone to be trusted, and that can be probably actually one of the greater successes, one of the greatest successes of being alive, is to be in a position where other people trust you. Yeah, that's a great success. To be a person that people come to be a person that people come to for advice, because they trust that even though you have to live your own life and you have to take care of your own interests and your own responsibilities, that if they come to you and ask you for advice or for help, that they trust that you have enough love in your heart to look after them too. And the things that you say will be not self-interested, but it'll be in their interest. So I was imagining this woman with this face that she has subconsciously, is it subconsciously or unconsciously? I think it's subconsciously. This face that she has subconsciously made for herself over the course of decades and decades. Each day that passes, that she's happy to maintain that kind of appearance, that she's happy to be that woman. She's happy to be scowly and jowly. That each day that she does that, she kind of pushes the world back a little bit more, just a little tiny bit more every day, and says, no, I'm not someone to be approached. I'm not someone that you can ask for help. I'm not someone that has a look and a light of love that's pouring out of me. I'm the one you have to be scared of. I'm the one you have to walk around. I'm the one, when you see me, you better start running. That's the message that this woman is giving these children. And I have to say, particularly, I was raised by an Irish mother, and Irish mothers are there are many wonderful, wonderful things. But when you're 2 and 3, they're also terrifying. They can be terrifying. And I think that's still encoded in me. I think that's still heavily imprinted. That when I saw that woman, and I was walking past the school, again, outside the boundaries of the school, again, the siren call having nothing to do with the fact that I was walking outside the school. But when I saw her, they're standing there, yelling at these children, I actually felt like running as well. I felt like, I've got to quicken my pace up. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get away from this creature, this woman. And it'd be very interesting if you sat down with this woman. I bet there'd be a big part of her that would like to get away from her too. I'd imagine that there would be a tremendous part of her own person that would like to run as far away as possible from what she's allowed herself to become. Or maybe she's completely happy. Maybe she's completely happy being that way. And maybe the energy or the satisfaction she gets from being in charge trumps the misery that she gets from being this vessel of like anti-love. Myself and Tom are going to Auschwitz in a couple of months' time. I'm going to go over there to see him. We're going to play a couple of gigs in Germany. He's living over there in Germany. Tom went over to start the next chapter of his life and be with his girlfriend. And I miss Tom. I miss Tom very much. I miss playing music with Tom. I miss hanging out with Tom. We used to go swimming once a week, and then sit in the spa for about 3 hours. And on some weeks, the ratio of swimming to sitting in the spa would be 50-50. And then on some weeks, it would be 90-10. And every now and then, it would be 100% spa and 0 swimming. But I miss Tom anyway. But I'm going to go and travel. I've got my flights booked, and we're going to go to Auschwitz and do a 7-hour tour of. That's coffee pouring. That's not people going to the toilet. And we're going to go to Auschwitz to take in that. To take in. I'm actually quite. I think I'm quite scared actually to go to Auschwitz for 7 hours. But at the same time, I'm very much looking forward to doing it, and I'm very much looking forward to going with Tom to do it. But Tom said he had to. He sent me a message yesterday asking me what the Jewish Halloween was, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said the Jewish Halloween when we're going to go and visit Auschwitz. Oh no, he actually asked me what the name of the camp was. And then he asked me what was the Jewish Halloween. And then we eventually got to it that he was talking about Hanukkah. Which, if you're Jewish or you know anything about Jewish holidays, which I didn't until very recently, because me and Tom we had to look it up. But it turns out it's not the Jewish Halloween at all. It falls on at the same time as Christmas, and there's some similarities to Christmas, to Hanukkah, but to call it the Jewish Christmas is a bit of a stretch. It is not really giving it its full honor. But he said he needed to know what the Jewish holiday was around that time, because he had to he had to get out of he plays music and he writes poetry, and he does a bit of part-time work looking after people with disabilities. Here's the neighbour again, coming back with his diesel. He's just moved the caravan to a different spot in his area. The man likes order. The man loves order. And why not? Good on him. He might get a wave here. Do we get a wave? No, he's on his purpose. No time for waving. And he's away. I'm looking at the car. Wilco's looking at the car. Here comes another workman. Is he coming into the site? No, he's going on. So Tom needed an excuse to get out of work so he could go to Auschwitz. So what Tom's now going to do is tell his boss that he has to take off Hanukkah. And in order for that to work, I imagine Tom now has to tell his boss that he's Jewish. Now, Tom's not Jewish. Tom's born in Western Australia. And if you're familiar with Western Australia, there's very, very few Jewish people here. There's not a very big Jewish community here. And that's not because that Jewish people are not welcome here. That's far from the case. But there just isn't. There just is not a lot of. There's just not a lot of Jewish people here. The capital city of Western Australia is called Perth, and there's one very small suburb about 10 minutes outside of the city centre, and that suburb is called Menorah. And it's the roads. There's literally only 9 roads in Menorah, and it's in the shape, if you look at it on Google Maps, it's actually in the shape of a menorah. It's in the shape of the candle holder. So that's how tiny the Jewish community is in Perth, and where I am here in Albany. I don't think there's a synagogue. I don't think I've ever seen a Jewish person. But I mean, a Jewish person is hard to spot from the car if you're driving past, unless they're wearing the yarmulke. The yarmulke. Actually, I went through the Diamond District in New York, and the Hasidic Jews were there. Those fellas are not hard to spot. So I can't speak for the mainstream Jewish community. Albany might be full of Jewish people who are who've left their yarmulkes behind, but I can say for certain that the Hasidic Jewish community does not exist in Western Australia. So my friend Tom, my good, gorgeous friend, beautiful friend Tom, is now not only using Hanukkah as an excuse to get off work to go visit Auschwitz, but he now has to pretend for the rest of his time that he's in Germany, which could be forever. He now has to pretend that he's a Jew living in Germany. And I'd imagine that if you're a Jew who has moved back to Germany, you would be welcomed so well into the German community because of the history, that there'd almost be a self-atonement to German history by treating the current generation of Jewish people with an almost venerated sympathy is the wrong word, compassion and reverence. It's kind of like when you. It's kind of like if you beat up your little brother. I don't have a little brother, so I'm just using that as an example. You beat up your little brother, and then you get in trouble, and then the next day, maybe you take him with you when you and your mates go out, and you treat him really, really well, just because of the past transgressions that were visited upon him previously. He gets to ride at the top of the pack with on his bicycle. You buy him the double Mars bar instead of the single at the shops, and maybe even give him yours on the way back. So Tom is going to be in this position now of a representative of a people that were wronged so terribly. So he's now going to be. I tell you, Tom, he's. You can't accuse Tom of not being very, very intelligent. He's actually done a very smart move, because if the rumor gets out that Tom is a Jewish man who's decided to come back to Germany, I think there'll be ripples of goodwill coming his way from all directions. Now, if they find out, that he's not a Jew, if they find out that he used Hanukkah to skip work, if they find out that he's not a Jew, used Hanukkah to skip work, and used that time to go visit Auschwitz and went on a 7-hour tour, then I think that goodwill will very quickly, that goodwill might turn outwardly hostile, but hopefully it won't. Hopefully Tom knows what he's doing.